So, as the title suggests, so I will try to speak about some, let's say, some mixtures of different topics, which are not naturally related. And so there is a part of mystery or why they are related, and what could this suggest about extension of the classical theory of information theory or entropy. So all the content of this talk is based on a long-standing collaboration with Herbert Gangel. Very funny, it has started almost 20 years ago. So I will review some earlier work and some more recent work, and also in particular questions related to work of other people which are in the audience. Okay, so let's start with something that you are, I guess, all familiar with, about entropy function. So of course there are plenty of different flavors of entropies, but the one which really interests us is the one which is related to the classical information theory, which refers to Shannon, which follow some rules. And those rules, in fact, force a particular behavior of the function. So there is a general setting for, let's say, the classical entropy, which was proposed by Rényi in the 60s, so long after the work of Shannon in 1948, sorry. And with, say, a general definition. Yeah, whoops. Sorry. With a general definition of the entropy given a set of random variables and so on. So I will not speak that much about random variables, by the way. And the classical Shannon entropy can be recovered from the Rényi entropy when we goes alpha to 1. And in fact, we have a family of entropy functions with two important ones. On one side, on the top, you have the Shannon entropy, and at the bottom, we have what we call the mean entropy. And in fact, from a practical point of view, both entropies are very important. And here I really mean if you want to measure the randomness of random variable, in particular if you are in the context of, for instance, cryptography, often you really have to measure, say, the difficulty for an attacker to recover the information. And the minimum entropy detect this minimal amount of information that you have to work out. This is why it is interesting. But on the other hand, the only one which fit naturally the setting, the framework, the Shannon framework, is of course the Shannon entropy. And the reason is the following. If you look at the rule which are supposed to be fulfilled by the Shannon entropy, you end up with such a type of equation, a four-term equations. And it turns out that if you start from this functional equation, and you ask yourself, suppose that I have a real function locally integrable on 0, 1, or Lebesgue measurable, and which fulfills this functional equation, what does it look like this function? It turns out that up to a constant, it is the Shannon entropy function. And of course, if you add some normalization value, it is exactly the Shannon entropy. So in some sense, the Shannon entropy is unique from this point of view. And this setting is of course interesting for us because this is, when you can wonder, from an abstract point of view, what type of function can fulfill such functional equation without bothering about is it a continuous function, is it a measurable function, is it whatever. Okay, and this is what often is called fundamental equation of information theory. So it has been called in particular by the school of Axel and Dombre and all the people in the 70s and 80s this way, and of course with a nice nickname.
So
yes?
What's the motivation for considering this functional equation?
No, it's not, I mean, you have no motivation for considering this functional equation. I mean, it's when you start from say, if you look at the rule, I mean, let's say the Markovian rule of the entropy function of Shannon, you derive such functional equation. Okay, and then of course, and after you say, okay, you have this functional equation, and you wonder how, what type of, let's say, measurable, Lebesgue measurable function fulfills this functional equation. Okay, but in fact, this functional equation is completely natural from the point of view of information theory. I do agree that if you look at the book, in a book of information theory, in most of them, they do not write explicitly this equation. Okay, so it is in some way hidden in the theory, but it is completely intrinsic to the information theory of Shannon. It is not something that you have to add, okay? And then after, of course, you can wonder if the Shannon entropy is unique or not. Or is there a better function entropy, and so on. Okay, so let's put aside the Shannon entropy for a few minutes. And let's speak about some arithmetical object. Well, strictly speaking, they have an ubiquitous nature, and you encounter also this type of object in theoretical physics when you are computing energy of particle physics, of particles in general. So this is what we call the polylogarithms, which is let's say a generalization of the classical logarithm. Let's start it in the easy way. You take the expansion development of the logarithm, and you generalize it this way. You look at the m logarithm by putting the m power on the n in the power expansion. So it turns out that if you look at this function, you have some functional equations very similar to the one, well, very similar in some sense to the one for the classical logarithm. But usually, if you use this construction, you end up with, say, mixed terms, which mix n minus 1 polylogarithms with other ones and so on. So it is, you do not get nice, clean functional equation. So you rearrange it a little bit in this way. And so this is really usually what we use when we speak about the d-logarithm function. And then this function fulfills this nice 5-term functional equation. So this was in particular stated in the work of Abel, for instance. Okay, so of course now you can wonder what is the relationship with the Shannon entropy and the d-logarithm function. Well, in fact, it turns out that you can derive functional equation in a precise sense. And if you apply the formalism correctly, you will end up, again, with a new functional equation for a type of derivative of the starting function, in this case, the d-logarithm. So this was, in particular, proposed by Jean-Louis Catlino, who really started to formalize it a little bit better in the 90s. The motivation for this work has nothing to do with information theory. So the motivation for this work is related to what we call Sizer congruences. And in fact, it is related to motives and motive ecology in some way. And then he found out that when we apply the derivation to the 5-term relation, we end up with a 4-term functional equation for the derivative of the d-logarithm, which looks exactly this way. Okay, so I just changed the name of variables. Okay, so you have here a rigorous formal process, and you derive from this equation. And of course, I'm sure that you recognize that this equation is exactly the fundamental equation of information theory. So it means that this function, even if you don't know exactly what it looks, you know that up to a constant, it is in fact the Shannon entropy. Okay. And in fact, we can extend the construction to all the polylogarithms, and there is in fact a complete process of derivation, and strictly speaking, to connect with a previous talk of this morning, here, I mean, the classical polylogarithm fits into an homological complexes, which is supposed to compute, say, a motivic homology some way. And so you can derive the classical complex and deduce an infinitesimal version. And then, with this map, it is possible to have a derivation map between the two complexes, the classical one and the infinitesimal one. And this is something that we have shown in previous work. So in particular, so even if it is not on the slide, there is several nice functional equations for the 3 logarithm, so D3, and a nice functional equation for DD3. And of course, you can wonder what is the relationship with information theory. And this is only part of the mystery, because now, again, we can forget this game and start another game. You take the classical expansion of the logarithm. You look at it mod p, p given prime, and you truncate the development at p. So you just end up with this teeny, simple function that you can see either as a function over fp, or you can see also, if you want, as a polynomial over fp. So of course, as polynomial, it is a little bit more rigid. And so Kontsevich investigated this function in 1995 and found out that it does also fulfill the fundamental equation of information theory. So this is intriguing because it is not exactly, you see, I mean, you have a functional equation which corresponds to the infinitesimal version of the D logarithm, but itself, it is more something related to the logarithm. So at the start, Kontsevich called it the 1.5 logarithm, because it was in between the 1 log and the 2 log in some way. And so what was intriguing, of course, was, okay, we can consider generalization of this function, okay? So here you can have a Stirling 2 function with K2 here, K square, and build a whole family of functions. And what type of functional equation fulfills the higher analog? So it was an intriguing question of Kontsevich. And it turns out that, in fact, the higher analog, in fact, fulfills the differential of the functional equation of the classical polylogarithms. And more intriguing, not only the functional equation is true as values, okay, as values in FP, but the functional equation is also true as polynomials. So of course, if you consider polynomials, you have to clean the denominators. Okay, here you have denominators. So it means that here you have to apply the Frobenius and to change the equation in 1 minus 6 power p, 1 minus y power p. And then you have a nice functional equation as polynomials. And also for the 3 polylogarithms, I mean the 3 logarithm version and the infinitesimal version. So it is even possible to globalize the FP version. So you can use the framework of Kaneko, Zagie, Sakokawa, Seki, and even other authors. So what you do is you consider this Q algebra A, which is a product of the FP over all p's, or over all primes P, And you mode out by the finite part, meaning the direct sum of all the FPs. Then you can define a new Sterling for this algebra, which is just the values of the different Sterlings at P. And again, you can consider this construction either as Z value or as a polynomial. In this case, here you will write Fp of x and Fp of x instead of Fp. So again, this framework, the motivation for this framework was motives, in particular multiple zeta values related to periods, so related to really deep arithmetical questions, and not at all information theory. So we can put together the different pictures. Okay, so you have the classical polylogarithms, you have the infinitesimal polylogarithms, you have the p-adic analog, of the classical polylogs. So this is easy. You have the p-adic differential process, which is the analog of the differential process over the real. And then you have the reduction mod P that we can perform rigorously from the p-adic setting. And so it can be shown that here it is a complete dictionary and, in some sense, an almost commutative diagram in some way, and with a reduction to the mod P. So it means that it is a rigorous proof that if you have a functional equation for the classical polylogs, then you have a functional equation for the p-adic polylogs, you can differentiate it, and the derivative of this functional equation in the rigorous precise way will be also a functional equation for the finite polylogs as values, not necessarily as polynomials. So this is more difficult to prove it for polynomials. Okay. And so the entropy and the fundamental equation of information theory so fit inside this diagram on the first level. And so the question is it purely coincidental, or is it hiding a more involved setup and maybe some type of higher entropy theory? Okay, so this is so it's why I prefer to speak about mystical questions, because it is really in some way a mystical picture. Because I want to believe that it does exist, but I have absolutely no clue to convince you that it should exist. So in fact, you have two natural questions. So of course, first, about existence of higher analogs of the Shannon entropy. But there is another natural question, is what should be the interpretation of such higher analog? Okay. Because information theory has a real clear meaning, even from an engineering point of view. And so this, could be also connected to other works, in particular the work of Pierre Baudot and Daniel Benquin. about, say, the homological approach to entropy, and where there are, say, some higher degrees classes related to some cohomological construction. And so the natural question is, are those classes related to the derivative of the polylogarithm? And I should emphasize another point, that the polylogarithms also have a cohomological nature. So again, this seems to not be a pure coincidence. Okay, so it is possible to go a little bit deeper in the let's say the algebraic aspect of the construction. Again, looking purely at the fundamental equation of information theory from an abstract point of view. So we can see that we can relate it to some derivation function. So it is not the classical derivation in the sense of algebra. So it is a type of, let's say, a twisted derivation function in some sense. But nevertheless, which fulfills the Leibniz rule of derivations. And what can be shown is that, in fact, each time we have a derivation function, then we can build a function, an abstract function, which fulfills the fundamental equation of information theory. And so there is really an explicit build-up. But nevertheless, it is not necessarily quite clear to understand what is the meaning of this construction. In particular, so in the finite case, so it is not necessarily a bijection, by the way. Okay. So for the real numbers, for instance, it is. But in the finite case, it is an exercise to show that, in fact, this FQ vector space is 0, and this FQ vector space is at least 1. It's at least of dimension 1. Sorry? Yeah, here, you can prove it for FQ, meaning skew P power nu. Sorry? Yeah. The function that I have shown is only for FP, yes. But this setting is completely abstract. Ah. And so we can also, so it is related to also this result, so which was also discovered in the notes of Kontsevich, but in fact was also present in an earlier paper of Catlino in 1988, again with motivation the Sizer congruences groups. That in fact we can give a cohomological interpretation of the finite logarithm, only Stirling 1. And so this is completely explicit, and we are able to build an explicit cocycle, an explicit 2 cocycle from h. So assuming that h is a function. So in fact, strictly speaking, we do not use necessarily the explicit definition of h. We just use the fact that h is a function over f which fulfills the fundamental equation of information theory. So again, we see that the machinery starts with this fundamental equation. And so from it, we can build an explicit two-cycle. So this was done by Kontsevich, and it is almost an exercise to show that that it is a non-trivial co-cycle. And here, I mean, the proof is a little bit different than the one of Kontsevich, and use, in fact, the previous setting of derivative. But okay. So it is possible to also to build a cup product over this co-cycle, but in fact you always end up with the same class in some way. So it is not something very interesting. And in particular, you are not able to build new functions from the cup product. Meaning, okay, or at least you need to have. Okay. So, as I say, so it is even more intriguing. But I said a few slides ago that things were also related to multiple zeta values. In fact, also to multiple analogs of polylogarithms. So what are they? So you just take, so here forget about the Z mod P setting. Okay, for in the classical setting, for the real numbers or even complex numbers or p-adic numbers, you just build a power expansion in two variables, and this time with two indices. So in the real or complex case, you have a power expansion which goes to infinity, of course assuming some hypothesis of convergence. And again, in the finite case, but in the finite mod P case with P prime, you just truncate the power expansion mod P. Okay, so of course we can consider as many variables that you want, as many indices that you want, but things start to be very complicated already with 3 variables. So 2 is already a good start. Okay. So then, if we look at what type of functional equation we can build up from this setting. So we end up with several expressions, which once you have, say, adequate notations, it looks quite nice. It is not so cumbersome. And some equations are analogs, in the finite case, of equation in the real number case. But for some of it, like this one, so we have a functional equation which involve only finite multiple polylog with some type of hidden congruencies also in it. And this functional equation, so this one, has no known analog for the classical case. So I must emphasize that so this is an experimental result with no say complete proof for general case, for all omega, for all n. And so again, we can wonder, so how this setting fit in the global picture. So are multiple polylogs in the finite version or the classical in the infinitesimal version. So already the infinitesimal version of the multiple polylogs is already very difficult. And to be honest, for the time being, we don't know exactly what it is, what it should be. And the question is how this fits inside a potential higher analog of information theory. Okay. So let us speak very shortly of another interest of finite polylogs and also related to the multiple version. Using, say, a famous problem which has been solved by Andrew Wiles and Richard Taylor in the 90s, namely the Fermat-Lasse theorem. Okay. It turns out that if you have a non-trivial solution of the FLT for a given P, then you can deduce some specific identities, or if you prefer, some special values of formula involving the finite polylogs. And this one and here for all the degrees. Okay, so suppose that if someone in the audience if it is obvious for you that we cannot have such equations, then you have immediately a new proof of the Fermat-Lasse theorem. Okay, that's more explicitly. Okay, and I mean, if you want to know more about this type of congruences, you can look at the book of Riebenboim on the Fermat-Lasse theorem. And in fact, so this often it is referred as Mirimanov congruences, but I mean there were such analog criterion also. I mean there are also analog criterion in the work of Hasse, for instance. One thing that, of course, you can wonder, except maybe for the fun or the arithmetic aspect, what is the interest of the finite polylogs? And the main interest is that what you have to know is it is very difficult to build functional equation for polylogarithm, and in particular the generic functional equation. What I mean by generic is a functional equation which could characterize the polylog, okay, and for which you can prove some result on it. And this it is very difficult. In general, we do not have such functional equations. And of course, if you want to test a functional equation, it is also quite difficult. So I mean, you test it with some special values, and then you cannot, of course, test lots of expression. But now, using this framework, what you can do is the following. I mean, you take your candidate functional equation, you derive it, and you test it with your finite analog. And this is far easier to do in general. And with some luck, you can prove that the derivative of your candidate functional equation is indeed a functional equation for the finite version. If you are able to prove it, then most likely your candidate functional equation should be a functional equation in general. Okay. So this is also another interest for people working on polylogites. Okay, so the main question and the main wondering is what could be an higher analog of entropies, of the Shannon entropy, and is it connected to the differential of the polylogarithm or the finite analog of the polylogarithm. So in particular, if you have a candidate higher analog for the fundamental equation of information theory, you can send it to us, and we can test it and say if it works or not for the corresponding finite polylog. And I will end there.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, when you give the interpretation of L1 in terms of the derivation of field, and you told
you mean the finite one or the...
Yes, the finite one.
Yes.
Yeah, no, before.
Yeah,
for the derivation, D. That's even...
for this, you mean?
No. I take your derivation from R to R. Your
interpretation. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And here you say that yes, EF1 is not 0.
Yes.
And here's the generator, which is, you name L1. Yeah. So is this generator represented by some function? And what is the equation? Because here for Q, there is a priori no known solution of the fundamental equation.
But,
so,
okay, yes.
It's a question.
It's
not an affirmation.
Yeah. No, so in the case Q, meaning Q equals P power nu with nu different than 1, and greater than 1, in fact, we didn't investigate this question.
Oh.
But it is we do not have an obvious answer, clearly. But I think that in this case there should be something.
Because in fact in this case you don't have 1 minus x equal 1 minus x exponent p. So by replacing 1 minus x by
yes,
okay.
Yes, yeah, indeed. But okay, so the problem is that if you play with different type of setting, you can see that you have some patterns which appear, let's say, which are not necessarily easy to characterize. So it is not as clean than for the P case, but maybe the function or the equation should be complemented by some other function. In fact, in this setting, for instance, there are some In some case, we have some clean functional equation in the classical, in the normal finite one. We have sometimes some extra terms which involve other types of functions, like zeta values, for instance, or stuff like that. So there could be some analog, but it is a very good question, and it is clearly something that we should investigate now.
So you explained how characterizations of Shannon entropy are related to the fundamental equation of information theory.
Yes.
And how that equation is related to polylogarithms. Now, for relative entropy, for characterizations of relative entropy, there's a similar functional equation, as I'm sure you know, that looks a little bit like the fundamental equation of information theory. Is there a role for polylogarithms there?
I don't know. It's something that, again, we didn't investigate because we were really more focused on the higher analogs. So, in fact, related to this question, so in fact, if you look at the work of Axel, Dombre, and all their school, they investigated several variations of either, say, entropy or entropy related to something that I have forgot, mutual informations. And they end up also with several types of equation, of functional equation. And we never investigate them in this context, but yeah, it should be interesting. But again, so I was not, at least I was not convinced that it could be the path toward higher analogs. So, but yes, it is an interesting question and interesting point to investigate, yes.
I have somewhat more of an oddball question. Okay. Right.
Hello? Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you interpret these functional equations, so if you think of the dial algorithm as sort of the generator for some symplectomorphisms of a algebraic torus, you get a manifestation of these functional equations for the dial logarithm in terms of a product of identity of a product of symplectomorphisms. So, I mean, yeah, have you heard of this? These like Kontsevich-Sogelman symplectomorphisms associated to...
Let's say, I mean, the problem is that it could refer to several stuff. You are not speaking of a geometrical setting for functional equations of the polylogarithms. This is not related to that.
Just the dial algorithm.
Yeah. But okay, let's. Even in the case of the dial algorithm, the story starts with the dial algorithm, and even from a geometric point of view with Gelfand at the start. But here I'm not sure that I understand. You mean you want the dial algorithm as a symplectic morphism? Is what I understand?
Well, I was wondering if there was any interpretation, if you thought about any interpretation in terms of how entropy would be related to these symplectomorphisms, if there was some sort of I'm just saying these functional equations can be interpreted in a different way. And I was wondering if that would help you generalize entropies in a separate direction.
Let's say, maybe Herbert will add some stuff. But I mean, you can interpret the functional equation from a geometric point of view. In fact, behind this equation, you have the cross ratio, which is hidden. And you can derive this functional equation from, say, a complex, again, a simplicial complex of configuration points on the projective line. Then you take the cross ratio of the different generators, okay? And at the level of the 5-dimensional part, you will have 5 terms. And once you apply the cross ratio on the different types of configuration, you get exactly this. So there is a geometric interpretation, in some sense, of the functional equation, if you want, in terms of cross ratio. And in fact, it has been the start for the functional equation of Goncharov for the tree logarithms. It was also starting from configurations. And we can generalize it, but then after it is very complicated to derive a functional equation. So you can easily generalize the cross ratio, you can generalize the complexes, but then the formula are extremely involved. And at some point you need to specialize the formula. And in the specialization, in theory, you have some singularities. Okay, so what I mean, you can interpret, geometrically speaking, the functional equation this way, as the cross ratio. You can also interpret the functional equations as cycles, as algebraic cycles in motivic complexes. Herbert have done that at some point in some case. But then, again, I'm not 100% sure to understand really your question. If you really want maybe another interpretation of the D logarithm as a function as a simplicial function. Is it your question?
I was just wondering if you thought about this interpretation in terms of symplectomorphisms and if that was useful for
Herbert?
Yeah.
Okay, this question also shows that, I mean, we can see different types of connections, so I completely squeeze out the geometric interpretation, but it is possible to give a talk on the purely geometrical interpretation. So. But again, I mean, you are able to give some pieces in different settings, but gluing together all the different settings is very difficult. And sometimes, for now, at least at the moment, we don't know how to glue completely all the different potential settings. So.
Okay, if there are no other questions or comments, then let's thank.
My last comment is that the question is really to know is the coincidence, the fact, this connection with the entropy deformation theory. The main question is it coincidental or not? That's really, and again, it is why I refer to mysticism, depending if you believe or not in this aspect.
Okay, thank you again.